G'day, it's Michael Guest here. Well, I absolutely love fishing. It's such a fantastic pastime, both mentally and physically, to get out and about and see what's on offer. In this episode of Let's Go Fishing, we're going to go and chase a few fish off the beach. It's certainly one of my favourite things to do. Lots of options. You can use lures, a lot of bait fishing as well, slightly longer rods, so some different techniques. So let's have a look at it. We're really lucky to live where we do because Australia has some of the best and most famous beaches in the whole world. They're great places for swimming and surfing, but they're also fantastic for fishing. From the tiniest pocket of sand nestled between rocky outcrops to long sweeping beaches that stretch on and on for kilometre after kilometre, we really do have plenty of options to choose from. But it's worth remembering that other people enjoy using our beaches too. Whenever you're casting a line into the surf, try to stay well away from swimmers and surfers and don't fish too close to places that are specifically set aside for them to use, particularly the patrolled areas with their distinctive red and yellow flags. Luckily, this still leaves us with plenty of other spots to fish. One of the amazing things about beach fishing is the number of species that you can actually catch. So we're talking bream, whiting, dart, trevally. What else do we catch? Flathead's another one off the beach, tailor. Australian salmon, certainly one of my favourites, is the mighty mulloway. Also known as a jewfish, so sometimes called a jewfish, the correct name's a mulloway. And just right here, when I was probably only 14 or 15, I caught my first ever shark, a hammerhead shark out here, so you never know what's going to jump on the hook. Now, when it comes to beach fishing, we do need some specialised tackle. It's not like you're fishing your local estuary or your freshwater creek or a bay where you can get away with those short rods. You can fish some beaches, especially the ones tucked in around our estuaries and bays with your shorter rods, no problems. And if it's dead calm, maybe an ocean beach like this, but generally, rods in that 3 to 4 metres of length are perfect. To get that big cast out. It can be quite frustrating at times if you can see some birds working out a bit further and there's bait and things like Australian salmon and tailor and you want to get to them. That longer rod will definitely give you a bigger cast. The other thing it does, you can tilt that rod angle up and you can hold your line out of that breaking surf so you can feel the bites, stay in contact with exactly with what your bait's up to, whether you're getting a bite or not. So the longer rods are definitely the go. Now, having a long fishing rod for the beach doesn't mean it's going to be heavy and cumbersome. Modern materials have made beach rods so much lighter and easier to use now. Fantastic, so you can hang on to them all day. It's not like when I grew up, it was a great big cane rod and you were flat out holding it there. You end up with a sore arm, but they're so light now, fantastic. Now, there are different reels that you can use off the beach as well. You could use a side cast style reel, an overhead, but the spin reels are probably the way to go. Now, this is spooled up with some 10-pound mono. Great thing about fishing the sand, unless you're fishing up against the rocks, generally there's no snags there, so you can fish a bit lighter, even on the beach. You're going to get more bites that way, so 10-pound nylon's a pretty good place to start. You can run a little bit of lighter leader if you're chasing a whiting, or you can go up in the leader size a little bit if you're chasing something like a big tailor or maybe even a mulloway. Anywhere between that 2,500 to 5,000 size is perfect. This is a 4,500, as I said, 10-pound mono, it's ready to go. You'll need a small tackle box or tray holding a collection of hooks, sinkers and swivels, a knife to cut your bait, some scissors to trim your knots and something to carry it all in. Take a bucket as well for your bait and hopefully to bring the catch home in. The one thing I would strongly suggest packing is a simple rod holder that you can push into the sand and stand your rod in while you're rigging or baiting up. You can buy these or make one from an off-cut of PVC pipe. But trust me, using one will save you from laying your gear down in the sand and getting sand in your reel. Here's a selection of some of the baits that you're likely to use when you're fishing off the beach. And of course, we've got the trusty pilchards there, so you can use those whole or cut those in half for things like trevally, dart, bream. What else have we got here? We've got some mullet fillet, which would be great for a bigger bait for something like a mulloway. Prawns, squid are awesome as well. But probably one of my favourites are things like pippies and beachworms. Now, you can collect these yourself, and I've got to tell you, it's great fun. If you've never caught a beachworm, I'm not great at doing it, but I've got some mates who are really good at doing it. I tell you, pippies that you dig up in the sand, check the regulations and make sure that you're allowed to do it on the beach you're going to fish. And I know most beaches you're not allowed to take pippies off that beach and go anywhere else, so you've got to use the ones that you catch there. These ones are frozen beach worms, defrosting, and these ones have been actually cured in metho. So we actually caught these beach worms and cured them in metho. They work exceptionally well also. But as I said, some baits you're going to have to buy, other ones you can catch yourself. It's best to keep your rig fairly simple when you're fishing the beach. Just the traditional running sinker rig seems to work really well. So you can use ball or bean sinkers if it's reasonably calm. I like these sort of star sinkers, pyramid sort of shaped sinkers. They bite into the bottom because it's quite rough here today. So I'm using one of those. And then I've got my swivel and then a length of leader material and then to whatever hook size I want to see. So that leader material, about 35 to 50 centimetres, works quite well. The ideal size of the hook to use will depend very much on what you're hoping to catch and also what bait you're using. If you want to cast a whole pilchard for a tailor, salmon, flathead or mulloway, you might even choose what's called ganged hooks. That's 3 or 4 hooks linked together by passing the point of one hook through the eye of the next, or some even have swivels that connect them together. You can buy these ready-made and they usually consist of linked 3/0 to 5/0 size. As far as hooks go, it really depends on the bait you're going to use. So for beach worms, I've got a size, anything from a size 4, even up to a sort of a number 1 would work with beach worms or pippies for fish like bream and whiting. And then when we're moving on to other species such as tailor and salmon and even mulloway, you might want to go gang hooks with some pilchards or a slab bait, or even a bigger single, even up to a 7/0 when you're chasing mulloway off the beach. So the hook size definitely changes with what you're targeting. You've got to remember you've got fish like dart and whiting got tiny little mouths, bream have got slightly bigger mouths again, flathead have got great big mouths, and then tailor and mulloway and so on, you can use those bigger hooks. You can also successfully cast and retrieve lures in the surf. This can be a great way to catch tailor and salmon, as well as the occasional flathead, trevally or dart. Shiny metal lures are the best, but soft plastics work too. Just make sure they're heavy enough to cast out a reasonable distance. If you want to be successful beach fishing, you need to be able to read the beach, what we call read the beach. So that's understanding where to fish. And the easiest way to do that really, if you've got time, come down on a low tide, have a look, try and find a nice high vantage point even, and have a look where the sandbanks are and where the gutters are. So they're the places you want to be. So if you've got a sandbank like we've got here, so a sandbank out wider, quite a big swell today. The swell's coming in, just had a bit of a bite then. Swell's coming in, hitting that sandbank, breaking, and then that foamy water's sitting on top of what we call a gutter here. So that's the deeper water. So the real white water that you see out the back, they're the shallower sandbanks. The darker water are those gutters, and they're the places that we want to fish. So at the moment I've got an incoming tide, so the tide's rising. I love fishing the beach when the tide's rising, especially late in the afternoon like this. So that water's getting a bit deeper in this gutter. And I've got to tell you, I think I might have had a bit of a bite while I was talking to you there. So I'll see if I can't get this fish in. Oh, so fish like bream and whiting, they love, I definitely got a fish there. They love to be right in against the bank, and I reckon this one's a bream. There you go, look at that. Beautiful yellowfin bream in the late afternoon light. If you sit there on my hand, just remember when you're handling fish like bream, quite sharp and spiky, never run your hands back towards the head. If you're going to run your hands that way, all the fins will fold in. They've got some very, very sharp spikes. It's a beautiful fish, and that fish was just in that gutter right behind me. Lots of people think they need to cast way out to catch fish off the beach, but this is not always the case. Lots of times fish will feed very close to the beach, just behind the shore break. So don't stress if you can't cast halfway to New Zealand. You'll probably catch just as many fish, if not more, with shorter casts. One of the difficulties when you're beach fishing is you get what we call rips. So they run up and down the beach, and if you've ever been swimming at the beach, you may have unfortunately been caught in one before. Today there's a pretty decent flow running back up at this gutter through here. So there's a sandbank out wider, got the flow there. So I want to stay 90 degrees to where my bait is. My bait's out there now, and I'm just slowly walking along the beach. Stay in contact with your bait, so keep that rod up nice and high, and just waiting to feel that bite. Once you get that bite, then you want to set the hook and stay nice and firm on that fish, and then it's about using the waves to land that fish. Oh yes, and yes, there we go. A bit of a bite there. What I've got, so this is a piece of beach worm. I've got to run a fairly big sinker today because there's a fair bit of rip there at the moment. So I'll see what we've got. So maybe a whiting, possibly a bream. We'll see how we go. Oh, and it's a bream. So it's just down there in the wash. I'll wait for another wave. Just give it a bit of a push. There it is now. Use that wave to bring that fish towards us. Here it comes. So don't pull back when that wave's sucking back. There we go. Beautiful surf bream. And the one thing with fish that you catch in and around the beach, whether that be a bream or whiting, they're all generally in fantastic order. Look at that. Look at the colours on that fish. So that's a yellowfin bream. That hook's perfectly hooked in the jaw, so that's a legal fish. So we could take it home if we wanted to, but I'm certainly going to let this fella go. So I'll pop that hook out in a minute and watch him swim off. Make sure you know the size and bag limits of any fish you're hoping to keep and bring home when you go beach fishing. If you decide to keep something, bleed the fish right away and place it either in a small esky or a chiller bag with even a frozen milk bottle or a bit of ice. If you don't have that, bury the fish head down in the sand with just the tail poking out. You can learn exactly how to quickly kill and bleed a fish in one of the first videos in the first part of this Let's Go Fishing series. Beach fishing is just a fantastic thing to do. Where else would you rather be? Sand between the toes, waves washing up around your feet. I tell you, Australia has so many great locations just like this one waiting for you to explore. So don't forget to slip, slop and slap. We don't want you getting sunburnt. Plenty of water, stay hydrated. I'll catch you on the water. I think I'll go and have one more cast.